whether or not you're a person of faith, this proverb is going to speak to you. And here's what it says. It was, is it 25, 24? I was in the wrong chapter. Oh, well, there we go. But here's what it says. It doesn't matter. Here's what it says. Are you ready for this? He who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. But there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Okay, I'm going to read that again. He who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. But there's a friend who sits closer than a brother. So let's talk about the first part of that. Unreliable friends. Think about the word rely. Now, why, where I come from, I think this verse was inspired by God, or it wouldn't be in his book. So why would God say that? If God says this and wants us to, if you don't have reliable friends, you're going to come to ruin. Why in the world would that? How would that be true? Well, it would be true if ruin is my life it's just good things get ruined. They don't come to fruition. I don't get where I'm trying to go. I don't, I think of the word ruin in part, not that only bad things happen, but the good things don't happen. So I had this great chance and it got ruined, and my potential, and it got ruined by dysfunction and all this kind of stuff. Now, what in the world does that have to do with friends? Well, a lot, says all of the empirical research that we know about thriving and succeeding. The number one factor in all of that research, in fact, Harvard just came out with another one of these. They followed people for 75 years to find out the people that are doing well in life. I'm not talking about catastrophes hitting you, illnesses and stuff like that. Bad things happen to good people. That's another topic one day. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in the course of people's path, and they're thriving, and that means, becoming fruitful and fulfilled. And, financially, it doesn't mean everybody's wealthy, but kind of like, like they manage that part of their lives well and are good stewards of all of that. And they have good family relationships and extended family and all this kind of stuff. How does that happen? Well, here's what 75 years of data came to. The number one factor is the quality of your close relationships, meaning who your friends are. Okay, that's huge. I mean, some people say, oh, they did this little study in this group and that group. And, they looked at them over the course of 6 months. And we're talking 75 years, longitudinal studies. Here's what else we know. The quality of your support system in your community affects your finances, even your immune system, how much you get sick and don't, how well you recover when you do get sick, whether or not you get sick, your level of happiness, your level of fulfillment, your level of learning. It is across the board exactly what this verse says. Exactly what it says. So if we have unreliable friends, what does that mean? It means that we can't rely on them for the things that create thriving. Now, here's what we can rely on unreliable friends for: the things that aren't going to be injurious if you don't get them. I have got some real crazy, unreliable friends, but that's not all of them. I mean, you want a few crazies, who's going to make everybody else laugh at the party? I mean, I love my dysfunctional friends, but they're not the ones that in my dark night of the soul that I'm going to call to depend on. And not only the dark night of the soul, but depending on them so you don't get to the dark night of the soul. So I'm going to give you a couple of little things to think about here in your list of friends. I'm not telling you to go get rid of your friends. What I am telling you is the key kernel of what this verse says, of who you are going to rely upon for your life. Who's going to pour life into you? And what the scriptures say and what the research says is that when God is our friend and we are depending on him to pour life into us, which he does directly, and he says, if you abide in me, then you're going to be fruitful. And he says, but not only that relationship, but these relationships around us, he wants us to find reliable people to rely on. So you can have unreliable people in your life. Just don't rely on them for the stuff that's going to bring you life and healing and all of that kind of stuff. Now, let me give you a few categories. Number one, transformational moments of connectedness. In other words, when you are in a particular state like loneliness or fear or confusion or, despondency or whatever that is, then we need to be able to rely on certain friends that when we go to them, there's going to be a transformational moment of connectedness where we're transformed from lonely to feeling not alone anymore, where we're transformed from afraid to having some kind of security with us, so we get encouraged. Courage gets put into us, where we feel weak and somebody's strong. One of my favorite verses in First Thessalonians says, help the weak, heal the brokenhearted, admonish the unruly or confront the unruly, but be patient with everybody. So I want friends. This is a noisy place today, Finley. Like, she's way on the other side of the house and I can't tell her to be quiet. Sorry about that. That's my dog, for those of you who don't know. Those three things, sometimes we're weak and we need somebody to come alongside and hold us up. If you've ever lost a loved one, you can't hold yourself up as you go through that grief. Heal the brokenhearted. When you've got hurt and woundedness, there needs to be a place to process that with friends. And to confront the unruly. Sometimes, we need friends that will look us in the eye and say, dude, stop it. You can't keep doing this is not good. We need to be corrected. And Proverbs says, if we're wise, we will love the person that corrects us. Some people don't want friends that correct them. But boy, is that a gift. The wounds of a friend, Proverbs says, the wounds of a friend are better than the kisses of the enemy. So do you have friends, a circle, that when you are weak, they make you strong? When you are hurting, that they can heal that and sit with you in it and transform it? That when you are off the mark somehow, that they will correct you. Let me give you a few more things. How about modeling? Friends that model for us, they become mentors to us. I know in my life, there are a handful of mentors that pretty much going all the way back to the very beginning of trying to figure out adulthood. And they came alongside and in fact, my mother said one time, I would have been in my 30s or so. She goes, you know what? You've done a good job at replacing family with friends. And meaning they lived across the country. I live in California. We're kind of talking about, don't get to see each other as much as we would have wanted. And she said it kind of tongue in cheek, but she said it was a compliment as well, that she's going, I'm glad these people have adopted you, because we really were scared, and what your chances were. I think it's kind of what she was saying. But I had mentors in my life that did that. That's why it's so important that you are intentionally building this circle. So that's what I want you to think about today. And not that you get rid of your unreliable friends, it's just that you just don't rely upon your unreliable friends. You rely upon the ones that have something to bring to the party. They've got connection, they've got freedom and responsibility, they've got mentorship, and not everyone is going to have everyone. I got a couple of friends. If I'm bummed out and really hurting in some way, I know who I'm going to call. If I need somebody to teach me something or get advice from, I'm going to call somebody else. It's not like everybody has all the talents and the gifts. It takes a village. Like there's a book about this research. I think it's called The Village Effect. Well, I want you to build that. If we're going to establish herd immunity, we have to be a community to do that. And I mean herd immunity against dysfunction, like we talk about it here. The fabric of your community is everything. It's everything. It's the arms you fall into. It's the safety net. And when that fragments, then we don't do well, as this proverb says. Okay, so you know what? I just thought of something. If you want some help on this, go to boundaries.me. I've got several courses up there that apply to this. There's one about your people picker, what you're looking for, how to build this kind of community. There's a bunch of stuff on there on safe people and unsafe people, how to know who you can depend on and who you should pick and what you need in relationships. So to look at those courses, go to boundaries.me and become a subscriber, and you'll have access to all of those courses. It's like a graduate school for people that don't want to go to graduate school. It's not a degree program. It's just a equipping in life. All righty.